We always look forward to spending a little time with Matt Spiegel, a guy who's forgotten more about sports and baseball in particular than the two of us will ever know. And he's kind enough to take some time for us this morning. Matt, good morning to you.
Good morning. Good morning. My son is getting ready for some homeschooling. To my left, I'm allowing him some video game time beforehand, which I've learned is the most valuable carrot in my current arsenal right now.
How old's Ruben now?
He's 8. He's 8 years old.
He's 8. Yeah. So he's starting to get into some 8 years old. He's starting to get into some maybe some stuff that you don't know. Have you learned anything with the homeschooling with Ruben?
I have learned some things. Did you know they found a fossil in Asia that may or may not have been a unicorn? I mean, it's possible it was just a precursor to a rhinoceros, but it's close enough to a unicorn that the mystery science project titled "Are Unicorns Real?" was left with some unanswered questions.
Wow.
So, yeah, there's some fun along the way doing some homeschooling, absolutely.
Good to know.
I didn't know any of that.
All right.
Oh, by the way, completely off topic. We tuned in for your interview over the weekend with Greg Maddux. Guys, that was fun.
Oh, good. I'm glad. I geeked out a little too much. Sometimes when you're talking to a really smart guy, you try to come off really smart. And that's not a guy that I should try to be as smart as. But I think it worked out fine. I want to talk to him again and ask some personal stuff. But I sure did learn some things about the way that guy looked at pitching. And the way that guy looked at pitching was very, very unique, rather brilliant, and would still be incredibly useful for anybody to listen to. That's for sure.
It was a great interview, and it was the most I'd ever heard anybody get out of Greg Maddux.
Wow, that's cool. Well, I appreciate that very much. It's a guy who ended up throwing 86 miles an hour by the end of his career, and it didn't matter. He was just as good throwing 86 or 87 as he was when he threw 93. It's instructive for all of us. It really is.
Man, I know baseball, all sports near and dear to your heart. I know baseball's a very special thing to you. One turn of phrase that I blatantly ripped off of you was you call baseball the summer companion. It's there for you every day. It's just part of what you do starting in April. One of the tweet threads that went out a little bit ago that went viral was, what are the little specific things about sports that you miss? What have you found just the day-to-day that you miss from baseball?
Oh, God. There's so much. I mean, really, the first thing that comes to mind is that feeling of sitting on my balcony couch at night and listening to whatever game is on. I mean, if a local team is playing, great. But even if they're not, I would use the At-Bat app and sit there with headphones and maybe a beverage on my balcony couch, and just the sound of a good play-by-play guy and a color guy with their rhythms and paces, and just the dull hum of 30,000 people calmly just waiting for something to happen. Because look, when the excitement happens, that's one thing, but that dull, you know what it is, where you just kind of hear the crowd as part of the atmospheric fabric of your evening. That is so powerful sensorily to me. I guess there's a hole in my life where a ball game should be. I feel that over and over and over, certainly at night. And then, certainly in the afternoon when the Cubs might be playing on a beautiful day. You said it's going to be 62 today. My goodness. I mean, what the hell else are we supposed to do with a 62-degree day in late April except fill it with a baseball game? So it does feel criminal. We all know there are bigger fish to fry. There are massively important health protocols that we all should be following for the betterment of our elderly, of our infirmed, and our vulnerable. So we do what we must. But my God, that sensory experience is the one I'm missing. And then every morning, Quick Pitch is the greatest show on TV. I mean, this is before The Last Dance existed, of course. But Quick Pitch, 1 hour of pretty much uninterrupted, full-on highlights with no opinioneers getting in the way with their punditry. Just shut up and give me factoids and baseball highlights every morning. The reliability of that over 6 months is just insane. Quick Pitch is the show on MLB Network for anybody who doesn't know. So I'm missing that like crazy. I'm used to a constant, steady flow of new data every day in terms of numbers and everything like that. But just the highlights. Did you see this? Did you see that? Did you see this? Should we get this call of that? Should we do that? Should we do this? It's crazy how important that has become in my life, and I know a lot of others.
It's been sad seeing it miss. Now we've seen a bunch of proposals to get baseball back. A lot of them out there. Is there one in particular that appeals to you as a baseball fan, and is there one that you've kind of talked to people that seems more likely than others to happen?
Well, let's start with the latter half of that, because I think that's the key, right? The Tom Verducci proposal that he put out in Sports Illustrated on the 9th of April about a 43-game plan. It would take 80 days from opening day to World Series Game 7. And it is a 43-game season, which is then followed by an expanded playoffs. And I know that sounds like very few games, but understand the reality of where we are, that might be all we get. And if we get more, great. But the way that it's described, teams would play without fans or with fans, probably without, but they would play in their home ballparks in a revamped schedule that keeps them as local as possible. And, the top 7 teams in each league would make the playoffs in a slightly expanded playoff model, and you'd have a full playoff run and a World Series. And yes, it would be weird. Yes, it would be so much smaller of a sample than we're ever used to. But this year is going to be weird no matter what, whether they try to cram in 100 games or whatever they try to do. Let's deal with the reality and have a very odd season. So, it's kind of a World Baseball Classic format in terms of you only play a certain amount of games, but so it goes. Or sort of a World Cup with that kind of thing with group play. That has interested me as well. But Verducci's one, I'd say look it up. And if we get more than 43, great. But let's be prepared to have, if it's only 43, that's fine. Take what you can get at this point. And along with that, go ahead and let some of the experimental things that you've been thinking about trying, let them be a part of it. It's okay. It's a weird year. It's an odd year. It's forever going to be asterisked massively. So in a baseball sense, go ahead and have some players mic'd up. Let's see what the real problems or benefits are from that. I think we know what they will be. Go ahead and have, obviously, your 3-batter rule and some other things. I mean, it's like things are going to be very complicated and very strange no matter what. So you might as well kind of try out as many odd things as you can in this odd template.
I completely agree with that. Yeah, pull out the stops a little bit, because no matter what, as you pointed out, it's going to have an asterisk next to it. You're never going to get a uniformity of opinion on this one, of liking it, hating it, wanting to do it like this. So go ahead and try out some of the things that we've been wanting to try, or at least have shown some promise in some exhibition type games.
Yes, yeah, I think so. I think it's. And it could be that they go away from that stuff because they're like, let's just wait for another year. This is weird enough as it is, and we'll see what happens. I do have to say that I am oddly proud of baseball for having its act together in terms of conversations. The deals that the Players Association, the owners have come to, while they do look like at sometimes billionaires taking advantage of the situation, the players are multimillionaires, and they're playing a role in there. These guys are actually talking about stuff and getting some things done and doing some good things. And they're also taking part in that study. Did you guys see that 10,000 person study that Stanford is leading to see which employees of MLB have tested positive for having the antibodies? So they may have already had the virus, and it's just MLB as a corporation volunteering to help out with this study, and I know Stanford is very appreciative, et cetera. But from MLB's perspective, it's wise to try and get as much data as you can out front of this thing. Have you noticed, by the way, that I am an amateur epidemiologist? Have you guys figured that out?
Good. We all are right now.
Yep.
We all are. I mean, thank God that Thank God I minored in epidemiology at Emerson College in 88 to 92.
It's paying off. It's paying off.
Yeah, finally paying off.
Matt, a little bit off coronavirus topic. You mentioned this. If we do play baseball, we'll have an asterisk on this season. Speaking of asterisks, the Houston Astros might be the only club kind of thankful that this stuff popped up because we stopped talking about them for a while.
They've got to be happy about this.
Our two questions are we done finding out stuff about the Astros, and when are we going to find out what's happening with the Red Sox? Because they were in a little bit of trouble too.
Yeah, it feels like the commission just kind of put the Red Sox thing on hold while they all deal with this, and I'm sure he's thrilled to have very few questions being asked about it on that level. In terms of the Astros, yeah, when we reconvene and things normalize a little bit, there'll be some questions. But boy, all of our priorities have shifted. That we're going to get away from focusing on some of the details on it. That's for sure. I will say, spoke with Peter Gammons a few weeks ago on Inside the Clubhouse with me and Bruce Levine on Saturday mornings on The Score. And Peter's very seldom wrong. And he will kind of let some things slip sometimes as he ages gracefully. His filter has gone away a little bit.
Uh-huh.
And Peter shared some sympathy for Jose Altuve because Altuve, he says, never used that system, refused to do it. Now, that dovetails with what Carlos Correa had said. The day after their awful press conference when they embarrassed themselves further and dug in. And I know we have video of Altuve saying, "Don't rip off my jersey," and we all thought that was a buzzer. But what if it was a half unfinished tattoo and the embarrassment of his wife saying, "Don't take off your shirt because you look bad," So Gammons really believes that Altuve, his reputation and career is going to be unjustly punished because of this. And that's interesting because, as always, just like Shoeless Joe didn't throw the 1919 World Series but was guilty by association, there were going to be guys who tried to have a sense of honor and just didn't bury their teammates because they were, adhering to an honor code, and their reputation is going to be damaged. And Gammons believes that guy is Altuve. So that was very interesting to me, maybe in part because I love Jose Altuve so much. I have loved him as a player and as a personality for so long. So some confirmation bias perhaps was pleased by hearing that from Peter Gammons.
Wow, interesting. Hey, Matt, before we let you go, because we're up against the clock and you're very busy as well, your take on The Last Dance, or at least the first installments?
So much fun to watch. Everything Jordan did had a grace and a flow to it that was special. Just watching him walk, it's just the way that he wore the big suits. It looks ridiculous. It looked ridiculous then, but damn it if it wasn't the coolest thing on the planet. So,
well, he's always been a really bad dresser, though.
But he makes it work. Now, he's wearing a beret. He's wearing a beret in France. It's ridiculous. But so there's that part of it. But what's really interesting, and this is a very, very common trope in the history of sports, and you're obviously seeing it on maybe the highest level it's ever been acted out, is FU management, we're going to do this in spite of you. You're going to break us up. We're going to show you we still got it, and we're still the best. And management reaps the benefits of the win and also looks the fool. And it's interesting, the other day, Anthony Rizzo likened these Cubs. He said the way they were feeling in spring training was a little bit like the team in Major League, because the owner wanted to sell the team and we wanted to show them, no, it's not time to do that, because the Cubs didn't add anything in the offseason, because the Cubs were talking and all the media was talking about the Cubs being sellers of the trade deadline. So I know I brought it back to baseball, but guess what? There it is. It's one of the most common tropes in team sports, right? FU management. We're going to do this in spite of you. And sometimes smart management will let that happen towards the end of a window, because what else you got to keep people motivated? So it's very, very interesting as I look at it with this perspective now of decades covering all different sports.
One last quick one before we go. What did you learn anything from the doc, or what did you go, oh, yeah, that's right, I forgot about that?
The lengths to which Pippen waited to have his surgery done. I had forgotten about that. So he was playing, a very pissy game of tit for tat. And he was, the length is, I always associated that delaying surgery until just before the season to Shaq, because I think Shaq did it like 2 or 3 times late in his career. Like, and I'm not going to bother to play those first couple of months. I'll just get the surgery then. But I forgot how much Scotty played that, and what kind of pressure that put on Michael and Phil, and they had to deal with it. And to know that eventually he comes back and is a good enough teammate and a good enough player that they win it again is amazing after where things ended after last night.
It's been a blast. I can't wait for next week to do it again. Matt, thanks a lot for joining us. And next time we want to cut it up, we'll give you a call. All right.
You got it.